that reason and spiritual insight are not at odds with each other, but they work together. That somehow reason augments spiritual truth. Emotions augment rational truth. That the whole body works as a whole. But the spiritual division has us working on the parts. Now, what are the parts? Well, we have one group over here who say that if you feel anything, then you are not being religious. So it's got to all be logical. Scientology, some of them are called. And then we've now got some of the Methodists who've become so rational that they have a logical system that if you can't be literate, don't come there. The Episcopalians have been requiring you to read for a long time. You have to be able to read and read well. The way they read in England. They want you to read Anglican English in order to be in part of that group. And all of these processes are ways that keep you locked into this. Now, these same people who are logical and literate can't imagine being spontaneous. So if you went to the Episcopal Church and something hit you and you said, that's right, they would bodily pick you up and throw you out. Because the two don't go together. And then you go to some of the Church of God in Christ places and they knock over the benches, kick over the piano, beat you across the head, throw empty pocketbooks, because I looked in some of them, go all over the place. And if you don't move, then they say, who you think you are? You stuck up or something. The spirit don't move you? Not tonight. Because I'm scared for my life. The point of it is that it's divided. It's broken up. It's either one or the other. Someone comes along and says, look, I believe in the word as it is written. I believe in the word as it is written. Even if the word don't make no sense, I believe in the word as it is written. Now look, why would the Creator give you good sense and you are permitted to use your good sense to understand that some things don't make no sense? Why is it that you somehow were given the ability to perceive things in a reasonable, orderly fashion consistent with the order of the universe, and suddenly you are told to suspend your understanding and accept the word? Even though on page 1 of the word, as Brother Quasey said, they say it has been diligently. Now listen now, this is not spuriously. This is not occasionally. This is not haphazardly. This says it has been diligently translated and transposed and lots of other things. And they're telling you that, yes, there are words here, but these words may or may not be true, depending upon which words you're looking at when you say this is the word. And they're also going to tell you that these are not the words of the divine inspiration, but they tell you honestly. You see, one thing about the reality of this world is that when you start dealing with the power of truth, Mat, it's called in ancient Egypt, Mat, truth and justice. When you start believing and working with that, you've got to always be upfront with it. You may try to dress it up and begin to distract from it, but you've got to begin to present the truth. So on page 1, they say, this is not the word. They say it is King James's version. Version. Listen. Listen now. Listen. Now, what we are saying is this. Those people then who begin to take it literally as his version and will argue with you that this is God, then these are people who spiritually divided themselves because their feelings and faith is telling them one thing and their logic is telling them another. When you go into a house where little babies are growing up and on the wall is a picture of Jesus and God and all the angels, and none of them look like any of them, and the little babies are saying, you say to the little baby, who is that on the wall? They say, oh, that's God. That's who? That's God. Which one? The one with the blue eyes and the blonde hair. Well, your relationship to him. And then my intelligent friends come along and say, oh, well, that has nothing to do with it. We all understand that was just a reproduction that was done by Raphael or by Michelangelo, and that really was not right. That is not really. Listen, this is just a symbolic portrayal of the deity, and it has nothing to do with the direct representation of what the deity is. You convince your 3-year-old of that lie. You convince your 3-year-old that you are pointing to this thing and calling it God, and tell that child that it's not what you represented it as being. That child grows up with the concept that God is a Caucasian. And if God is a Caucasian in a world such as this, in a world such as this, in a world that has been set up on the dialectical opposition between black and white, then the child automatically understands that if this is God represented by white, then I must be the opposite represented by black. At least the child can understand that. Listen. And then you wonder why your 3-year-old talks about how ugly she is, as beautiful as she is. You wonder why they start telling you at 5, Mom, I want my hair straightened. You wonder why they begin to start coming into your room like Toxie with white flour or powder, baby powder, all over their faces, talking about, Mama, isn't this color pretty? Because you have worked to build insanity into the minds of your own children. Division. Listen, you know, I don't believe that the solution is to then go get some black gods. Because you've got to understand, as Brother Quasey said, that the blackness of the gods of our time represented a truth that transcended flesh. It spoke of cosmic darkness. The fact that all truth comes out of blackness. And out of the depths of blackness comes the imposition of light. And because light is able to be transposed out of darkness, therefore darkness is the universal seed that gives birth to all light. So in depicting God in black, they weren't talking about skin color. They were talking about the universal origin of all color. The universal origin of all life and light and white. And when you come back and put it up, you'd better put up something bigger than flesh color. But one thing you need to do is get the other flesh color down. And listen, I go further than that. Maybe for the time being, until things get better, you better maybe want to put a black one up there for a while. And say, yeah, that's God for the time being. You know, listen, now, I know you now, and I know some of the brothers who are here who heard Imam Muhammad talk about this are going to run to Chicago immediately tonight. Akbar saying something you didn't say, dear holy brother minister. Listen, I'm saying this. I'm saying when you've been bit by a snake, you need some snake venom sometime to counteract the venom that's been infused into your system in order to neutralize the venom. Howsoever, as my grandmama used to say, if you keep on taking the neutralizing venom long after the bite has passed, then you run the risk of poisoning yourself with the antidote that you took. So that's why I make it very clear that if you have to do some strange thing temporarily, then do it, but understand there's a bigger truth, and don't get locked there. If you do, you may get lost there, because you've come to mutilate the oneness or the connectedness of all that is. Let's go on. We've got to understand that worst of all is not only the familial division, the political division, the spiritual division, the fraternal division, all the community division. But worst of all is the division against the self. The degree to which we have been programmed and engineered to engage in opposition to ourselves. Now that's the worst mutilation. That's the mutilation that took the head from the body. That's the mutilation that's the worst one of all, because it began to put the body of Osiris at war with itself. How do we know? We understand, Imam Abdullah said today earlier in the presentation, he says that the most potent weapon of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed.